Listen to me closely. If you have to beg for love at 60, 70, 80, then you train people your whole life to ignore your worth. And today, that training ends. This is not about romance. This is about dignity. This is about power. This is about how you finish your life. Let me tell you something most people are too afraid to say out loud. Love is not a handout. It never was and it never will be. Love is not something you line up for, hoping someone feels generous enough to give you a portion. The moment you start treating love like charity, you strip it of its sacred power and you strip yourself of dignity. Real love does not arrive because you endured pain long enough or because you waited patiently while being overlooked. It arrives because there is mutual recognition, mutual respect, mutual desire. Anything less is not love. It is survival dressed up as affection. And survival is not how you are meant to live, especially not in the later chapters of your life. When you beg for love, you are not asking for connection. You are asking for permission to matter. And no human being should ever need permission to matter. Begging quietly teaches people that your presence is optional, that your needs are flexible, that your boundaries are negotiable. Over time, that lesson becomes deeply ingrained, not just in others, but in you. You start accepting crumbs and calling them meals. You start calling neglect understanding. You start shrinking your expectations to match someone else's comfort. And all the while, your spirit knows the truth. Love that must be begged for is love that will never fully arrive. There is a dangerous myth that floats around, especially as people grow older. The idea that love becomes scarce, that options run out, that gratitude should replace standards. That myth is poison. Love does not lose value with time. People lose courage. Courage to walk away. Courage to demand reciprocity. Courage to believe that being chosen should feel natural, not forced. The truth is, love that requires begging is already telling you no. And every time you ignore that no, you teach yourself to mistrust your own intuition. Over time, that self-betrayal becomes more painful than loneliness ever could. Begging changes the power dynamic in ways most people don't realize until it's too late. The person being begged learns that they don't have to show up fully. They don't have to try. They don't have to meet you halfway. And once that imbalance sets in, it rarely corrects itself. Love thrives on equality. It suffocates under desperation. You cannot build intimacy from imbalance. You cannot build safety from insecurity. And you cannot build a meaningful bond when one person is constantly proving their worth while the other casually receives it. Some people confuse persistence with devotion, but they are not the same. Devotion is chosen freely. Persistence born from fear is self-abandonment. When you beg, you are not fighting for love. You are fighting against your own self-respect. And self-respect always loses when it's treated as optional. The longer you beg, the more normal it feels. The more normal it feels, the harder it becomes to imagine a relationship where love flows without pleading. That is how people get trapped, not by others, but by the low expectations they slowly accepted. There is a quiet strength in understanding this truth. Love that is real does not need to be chased. It does not need repeated explanations. It does not need to be convinced of your value. When someone sees you, they see you. When someone wants you, they show it. Anything that requires constant justification is already misaligned. And recognizing that is not bitterness, it is wisdom. Wisdom earned through years of living, losing, learning, and surviving. Wisdom that deserves to be honored, not silenced. As time passes, the cost of begging becomes heavier. You are no longer trading just emotions. You are trading peace. You are trading time. You are trading the quiet joy of being comfortable in your own skin. Every moment spent trying to persuade someone to love you is a moment stolen from becoming more fully yourself. And that theft adds up. One day you look back and realize you spent years negotiating for something that should have been freely given. That realization can break you, or it can wake you up. The most painful part is not the rejection, it is the delay. The delay in meeting people who would have met you with open arms if you had walked away sooner. The delay in discovering how light love feels when it doesn't come with anxiety attached. The delay in realizing that love is not supposed to feel like a test you keep failing. Begging keeps you stuck in the wrong place, convincing yourself that effort will eventually turn indifference into devotion. It won't. It never has. There is dignity in saying, if I have to ask you to care, then this is not for me. That sentence is not weakness, it is power. It is self-knowledge in action. It is choosing alignment over attachment. Love that honors. You will never make you feel small for wanting to be chosen. It will never make you audition for a role you already deserve. And once you experience that kind of love, you will never again confuse begging with commitment. You were not born to plead for affection. You were not designed to chase approval. You were not meant to age into desperation. You were meant to grow into clarity. Clarity about what you deserve. Clarity about what you will no longer tolerate. Clarity about the fact that love is an exchange, not a sacrifice of self. When you stop begging, you don't lose love. You make room for it. And here is the truth that must be carried forward, especially into later years. Love should feel like recognition, not rescue. It should feel like home, not a battlefield. It should feel like expansion, not erasure. If you ever find yourself pleading for presence, affection, or respect, that is your signal. Not to try harder, but to stand taller. Because the love meant for you will meet you at eye level, not above you looking down. Never beg for love. Not now, not later, not ever. Love that is worthy of you will never require you to abandon yourself to receive it. Age does not strip you of value. It strips away illusions. It removes the masks, the noise, the need to impress. What remains is truth. And truth is powerful. When you were younger, you may have been chosen for your potential, your flexibility, your willingness to adapt. But as the years pass, something far greater emerges. Depth, perspective, discernment. You are no longer guessing who you are, you know, and knowing is priceless. Anyone who believes age makes you less has never understood what maturity actually offers. Time doesn't erase worth, it concentrates it. Every year you've lived has sharpened you. You've learned what hurts, what heals, what matters and what never did. You've walked through disappointment and survived. You've watched promises break and still stood back up. That is not weakness, that is refinement. Just like fire purifies gold, experience purifies character. Age removes desperation, because you've already seen what chasing the wrong things costs. You are not behind, you are ahead. Ahead of illusions, ahead of fantasies that once distracted you from real substance. And anyone incapable of recognizing that clarity is revealing their own immaturity, not your decline. There is a quiet authority that comes with age and it cannot be faked. It's the confidence that doesn't need volume. It's the calm that doesn't need validation. When you walk into a room now, you don't need to announce yourself. Your presence speaks. That presence was earned through survival, endurance, and self-discovery. Younger years may have been about becoming, but these years are about being grounded, being selective, being intentional. And intentional people don't beg for acceptance, they decide where they belong. Society loves to sell the lie that youth is currency and age is debt. But look closely at who holds the power in any room. It's rarely the loudest or the youngest. It's the one who knows when to speak and when to stay silent. The one who doesn't react emotionally but responds with wisdom. Age gives you that. It gives you the ability to pause, to assess, to choose peace over chaos. That is not fading, that is mastery. And mastery is attractive in ways youth can never replicate. What aging truly does is remove tolerance for nonsense. You no longer entertain disrespect just to feel wanted. You no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. You no longer accept confusion as romance. That shift alone elevates your value. You are no longer accessible to everyone, and that is the point. Access should be earned, not assumed. Age teaches you that your energy is sacred, your time is finite, and your heart deserves protection. These realizations don't shrink your world, they refine it. Some people fear aging because they fear being seen without distractions. But if you've done the inner work, age becomes liberation. You stop performing, you stop explaining, you stop apologizing for existing. You understand that being chosen is not a prize, it's a mutual decision. And if someone cannot see your worth now, when it's fully formed, they were never equipped to value it at any stage. Age reveals who belongs and who never did. You are not aging out of love, you are aging into truth, into alignment, into relationships that see you, not just your surface, into connections that respect your history instead of competing with it. Your age is not a liability, it is your resume. Every line tells a story of resilience, growth, and survival, and anyone worthy of your presence will read that resume with admiration, not judgment. Age does not diminish you, it defines you, it sharpens you, it reveals the strength, wisdom, and depth that were always there, and anyone who cannot honor that revelation is not meant to walk beside you. Begging for love in old age doesn't begin in old age. It begins quietly, years earlier, in moments when you stayed silent instead of speaking your truth, in times when you accepted less than you deserved because you were afraid of losing someone. It starts when you tell yourself that love requires endurance, that suffering is proof of loyalty, that being chosen means tolerating discomfort. Over time, those small compromises turn into a pattern, and by the time the years have passed, the habit feels natural, almost invisible. But what feels natural isn't always healthy, and what feels familiar isn't always right. In youth, begging often disguises itself as effort. You call it trying harder, being understanding, being patient. You convince yourself that if you love deeply enough, sacrifice long enough, explain clearly enough, the other person will eventually meet you where you stand. But love doesn't work on accumulation. It doesn't arrive because you reached a certain threshold of pain. Every time you overextend yourself to be chosen, you teach your nervous system that love equals anxiety. That lesson doesn't fade with age, it hardens. And unless it's unlearned, it follows you into every stage of life. As the years pass, the habit evolves. It becomes quieter but heavier. You stop asking outright, but you wait, you hope, you tolerate, you adjust yourself to fit into spaces that never quite make room for you. The begging becomes internal. You beg by staying. You beg by justifying behavior you once would have walked away from. You beg by convincing yourself that this is just how relationships are. And the most dangerous part is that it slowly erodes your sense of choice. You forget that leaving is an option. Old age doesn't create the need to beg, it exposes the cost of never stopping. The body grows tired, the heart grows cautious, and the soul begins to ask harder questions. Why do I still feel unseen? Why does love still feel like work? Why am I always the one adjusting? These questions don't come from bitterness, they come from awareness. And awareness is uncomfortable when it reveals how long you've been betraying yourself in the name of connection. The truth is, many people fear breaking the habit because they mistake familiarity for safety. Begging feels safer than risking loneliness. Staying feels easier than starting over. But what you don't realize is that the habit of begging already isolated you. It just did it slowly. It taught you to prioritize RS comfort over your own truth. It taught you to earn what should have been freely offered. And once you see that clearly, you can no longer unsee it. Breaking the habit requires courage, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind. The courage to disappoint others instead of yourself. The courage to sit with emptiness without rushing to fill it. The courage to believe that love does not require self-erasure. When you stop begging, it may feel unfamiliar at first. There may be silence, there may be loss. But in that space, something powerful begins to grow. Self-trust. And self-trust changes everything. When the habit breaks, relationships either rise to meet your new standard or fall away entirely. And that is not failure, it is clarity. You stop attracting situations that require you to plead for relevance. You stop negotiating your worth. You start recognizing love that feels steady instead of conditional. This shift doesn't come from age, it comes from awakening. Age simply gives you the perspective to finally choose it. Begging for love is not a phase of life, it is a pattern of self-abandonment. And the moment you choose to end that pattern, no matter your age, you reclaim your power, your peace, and your right to be loved without pleading. Loneliness has been unfairly demonized. We've been taught to fear it, to outrun it, to treat it like a disease instead of a season. But loneliness is not what breaks people. Disrespect does. Disrespect slowly drains the spirit while convincing you that you're lucky to have anything at all. Being alone may feel quiet, but being disrespected is loud in the most destructive way. It echoes in your thoughts, disrupts your sleep, and makes you question your worth. Loneliness gives you space to hear yourself again. Disrespect drowns you out until you forget who you are. There is a special kind of pain that comes from being with someone. Who makes you feel invisible. You sit next to them, yet feel miles away. You speak, yet feel unheard. You show up fully, yet feel tolerated rather than cherished. That kind of emotional neglect cuts deeper than solitude ever could. At least when you are alone, the silence is honest. At least when you are alone, you are not constantly bracing yourself for dismissal, indifference, or subtle cruelty. Loneliness does not attack your identity. Disrespect does, over and over again. Many people stay in disrespectful situations because they confuse presence with connection. They tell themselves, at least I'm not alone. But being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Being disrespected is abandonment in real time. It is someone choosing their comfort over your humanity. It is someone benefiting from your presence while refusing to honor it. And the longer you stay, the more normalized that imbalance becomes. You start lowering your voice, shrinking your needs, and managing someone else's emotions at the expense of your own. Loneliness never asks you to do that. There is peace in solitude that cannot exist in disrespect. Solitude allows you to breathe without permission, to move without fear of judgment, to exist without constantly proving your value. Disrespect keeps you in a state of emotional alertness, always anticipating the next dismissal, the next cold response, the next moment you'll feel small. That kind of stress ages the soul. It makes joy feel risky. It teaches you to expect disappointment. Loneliness, on the other hand, can be restorative. It gives you time to remember what peace feels like when no one is undermining it. Choosing loneliness over disrespect is not giving up. It is choosing yourself. It is recognizing that your well-being is more important than appearances, that your peace matters more than someone else's approval. that being alone for a season is far healthier than being slowly eroded by constant disregard. When you step away from disrespect, you create room for healing. You stop rehearsing explanations. You stop justifying poor treatment. You stop questioning whether you are too much for wanting basic decency. In that space, your confidence begins to return, not loudly, but steadily. The fear of loneliness often keeps people stuck, but what they don't realize is that disrespect already isolates them. It cuts them off from joy, authenticity, and self-trust. When you finally choose solitude over disrespect, you don't lose connection, you reset your star. And you send a message to yourself and the world that you will no longer trade your dignity for company. And that decision changes the quality of every relationship that follows. You stop accepting less because you've learned that peace, even alone, is priceless. Loneliness is a temporary state. Disrespect is a permanent wound if you allow it. Choose the quiet that heals over the noise that destroys. Choose yourself every time. Self-respect is not loud, but it is unmistakable. It doesn't announce itself with arrogance or demand attention through force. It shows up in posture, in boundaries, in the way a person refuses to chase what refuses to choose them. When someone truly respects themselves, there is a calm certainty in their presence. They don't over-explain, they don't over-promise, they don't overextend. That quiet assurance is magnetic because it signals something rare in this world, inner alignment. People are drawn to it not because it begs for approval, but because it doesn't need it. Most people think attraction is about looks, charm, or words. Those things fade quickly. Self-respect does not. Self-respect shapes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you decide. It teaches others how to approach you before you ever open your mouth. When you respect yourself, you don't tolerate half-effort, mixed signals, or emotional confusion. You don't stay where you're unsure of your place. That clarity creates safety, not just for you, but for those who engage with you. People feel grounded around someone who knows where they stand. There is nothing more powerful than a person who knows their worth and acts accordingly. Not aggressively, not defensively, simply consistently. Self-respect means you don't need to prove your value through sacrifice. You don't perform for affection. You don't diminish your needs to avoid conflict. You understand that love is earned through suffering. It is built through mutual care. That understanding changes your energy. It replaces anxiety with calm, urgency with patience, and fear with discernment. And that shift is deeply attractive. Self-respect also changes how you walk away. You don't leave in chaos. You don't threaten. You don't beg. You simply recognize when something no longer aligns, and you choose yourself without apology. That kind of exit speaks louder than any argument ever could. It tells the world that you trust yourself enough to let go, and trust, real self-trust, is rare. People sense it immediately. They may not always like it, but they will always respect it. When you live from self-respect, relationships either rise in quality or fall away entirely. You stop attracting people who are looking for convenience, validation, or control. You start attracting those who value mutuality, effort, and honesty. This isn't magic, it's alignment. You are no longer broadcasting need. You are broadcasting wholeness. And wholeness is irresistible because it doesn't ask to be filled. It invites connection. The most important relationship self-respect improves is the one you have with yourself. You stop abandoning your intuition. You stop second-guessing your standards. You stop negotiating your peace. Over time, that inner consistency builds confidence that no one can take from you. Not rejection, not aging, not loss. You become anchored. And when you are anchored, love no longer feels like something you chase. It feels like something that meets you where you stand. Self-respect is the strongest signal you will ever send. It tells the world how to treat you, who belongs in your life, and what you will no longer tolerate. And when you honor yourself fully, love doesn't disappear. It rises to meet you at your level. How you love yourself is not a private matter. It is a blueprint. EV. Every choice you make, every boundary you honor or ignore, every standard you uphold or abandon teaches people exactly how to treat you. Words matter, but behavior speaks louder. You can say you value respect all day long, but if you tolerate disrespect, you rewrite the lesson. Self-love is not a feeling, it is a practice, and that practice becomes the curriculum others study when they enter your life. Many people believe teaching others how to love them means explaining their needs again and again. But love is not learned through lectures. It is learned through consequences. When you stay after being disregarded, you teach that disregard has no cost. When you accept inconsistency, you teach that your time is flexible. When you forgive without change, you teach that apologies are enough. These lessons are not intentional, but they are powerful. And over time, they shape the entire dynamic of your relationships. Loving yourself requires a willingness to disappoint others in order to stay loyal to yourself. That is where most people struggle. They fear being seen as difficult, demanding, or cold. So they compromise, they accommodate, they endure. But self-love asks a harder question: what does it cost me to keep the peace? Often the answer is your voice, your joy, your sense of safety. Teaching others to love you properly begins when you decide those costs are no longer acceptable. When you love yourself well, you stop negotiating your worth. You don't chase clarity, you require it. You don't accept confusion, you step away from it. You don't wait to be chosen, you choose where you belong. These actions may feel uncomfortable at first because they challenge old patterns, but discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is growth, and growth is the price of self-respect. The more consistently you choose yourself, the clearer your message becomes. People respond to self-love in different ways. Some rise to meet it. They adjust, show up, and deepen the connection. Others fall away. They resist the boundaries. They test the limits. They accuse you of changing, and you have to let them. Not everyone benefits from the version of you that respects itself. That does not mean you are wrong. It means the relationship was built on access you no longer provide. The most profound shift happens internally. As you model self-love, you begin to trust yourself again. You believe your instincts, you honor your feelings. You stop doubting your right to want more. That internal alignment creates peace that no external validation ever could. You no longer need love to complete you. You allow it to complement you. And from that place, the relationships you form are not rooted in fear, but in choice. This is the legacy you leave behind, not just to others, but to yourself. A life where love was not begged for, but embodied, where boundaries were not walls, but bridges to healthier connection, where self-respect guided every decision. When you love yourself fully, you don't just change your relationships. You change your entire experience of life. How you love yourself sets the standard for everything that follows. Choose to teach strength, clarity, and self-respect. The world will respond accordingly